There. I just restarted my mic. Does that work? I guess I have to restart my microphone before every stream, which I didn't know last stream, and I was muted. I didn't know this stream, and I was muted. But now, together, we figured it out. Happy birthday, Linus! Happy birthday! Happy birthday! Look, I'm wearing orange. It's not orange, but it's the closest orange I could get. When I rolled over and woke up and grabbed something, I have to get something orange, and this is what I found. Happy birthday! We are at 2.5. We are, so we're good. Um, it's just so late. That I have to go, but I'll be right back. This is new software, but it still should work fine. It really, really should, unless those blanking cats mess it up. I don't have I don't have any chat or anything to scroll while I'm gone. So I'm just gonna leave my background up, and hopefully that changes the video in some way, and YouTube doesn't nail me. Linus, we missed you during the stream, but I'm glad that you were like hungover and you couldn't make it. And that's what I'm thinking in my head. You're just drunk. You got too drunk. I gotta go. I'll be back real soon. Hold on. I have
That
to
would
make
be
sure you
correct.
hear it.
Previously, or just a few moments ago, testified that these results,
Wow, that's
all
fast.
6 of these genetic markers exclude Mr. Goldman and Nicole Brown. Is that right?
That's right.
And is Mr. Simpson then included as a possible donor of that blood stain?
Yes, he is.
When you use the term included again, does that mean he is or is not a possible source of that DNA?
When you say that he is included, it means that he is a possible source.
Now, turning your attention to the next item on the board, which is labeled number 48, Bundy Walk, did you also test that sample using PCR?
I think I have to go to a different report, so you
All
need to
right.
give me a second.
Your Honor, while the witness is looking, I'm also going to remove the second magnetic portion of the board that's under the column not excluded relating to item number 47, the first drop.
Lucy.
Good thing these are getting lower too as we go.
Yes, we did have that sample.
And did you test that sample for the same 6 genetic markers using PCR?
Yes, we did.
With what result?
Did you want me to read the type or just...
Actually, were your results the same or different than 47, the first drop by the victims?
They were the same.
Does that mean then that the types were DQ alpha 1.1, 1.2, and as to the polymarker, an individual was included?
That's right.
Do those results include or exclude Mr. Goldman and Nicole Brown?
They exclude Mr. Goldman and Nicole Brown.
What about Mr. Simpson?
They do not exclude him.
All right, Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'm going to remove again both magnetic markers as to item 48, the Bundy walkway.
You may.
Turn your attention, Dr. Cotton, to number 49, another Bundy walkway stain. Did you type that particular evidence using these same 6 genetic markers using PCR?
Yes, we did.
With what results?
Mr. Simpson is included as a possible donor, and Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman are excluded as possible donors.
Now, does that include, or were your results as to number 49 on the Bundy walkway the same as for the first 2 items, 47 and 48, the other Bundy walkway stains?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, again, with the court's permission, I'm going to reveal the 2 appropriate
Yes.
covers.
Ms. Martinez, is it possible we could move the cart there just slightly? Thank you.
Now, referring you to what's marked number 50, bloodstains from the Bundy walkway, did you also test that sample?
Yes, we did.
Did you use the same or different genetic markers using PCR typing?
The same.
And with regard to the results, can you tell us what they were?
With regard to item number 50, Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman are excluded, and Mr. Simpson is included as a possible donor.
All right, Your Honor, with regard again to those results, I'm going to, with the court's permission, reveal the appropriate markers.
Proceed.
Turning your attention now to number 52, which is labeled the Bundy walkway. First of all, you've already described RFLP results. with respect to that Bundy stain. Is that right?
That's right.
And I believe you described that there was a match between Mr. Simpson and this stain at a number of genetic markers. Is that right?
That's correct.
Or probes, as you've used the term?
That's right.
How many probes did Mr. Simpson match the 52 Bundy stain at?
5.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, there is a column with RFLP results, and I'm going to ask to be able to reveal that at this time also.
Pussy.
In other words, Dr. Cotton, was there a 5-probe match between Mr. Simpson and number 52, the Bundy stain, using your RFLP technique?
Yes, there was.
Did you also test that sample using PCR?
Yes, we did.
With what results?
If you'll have to wait just a second because I've thought I had turned to the correct page and I haven't. Oh, yes, I have. Okay.
Now, first of all, was that the same stain, and I'm referring to item number 52, that you discussed as far as RFLP results yesterday?
Yes, the same stain.
With what results as far as PCR is concerned?
The PCR results exclude Mr. Goldman and Nicole Brown, and they include Mr. Simpson.
All right, again, Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'd like to reveal the remaining 2 magnetic covers.
Yes.
Now I'd like to turn your attention to the shoe print, item number 56, which you've testified about already both yesterday and today as far as RFLP typing,
Yes,
and you obtained no RFLP results as to that shoe print staining. Is that right?
that's correct.
What about PCR? Did you obtain any results as to that item?
Yes, we did.
What were they?
We obtained polymarker results, and we did get some signal on the DQ alpha results, but there was no CDOT.
When you say no CDOT, what does that, is that one of the controls you described?
That's one of the controls, and because we didn't see a CDOT, we noted the types that we could see, but that doesn't mean that there aren't other types that we couldn't see.
Was there anything about, well, what types did you see as far as DQ alpha was concerned?
We
Objection, Your Honor, we approach.
Sustained. I'm going to sustain the objection.
Was there anything about the results using DQ alpha that excluded Mr. Simpson?
Using DQ alpha alone, given that we didn't see a CDOT, we can't exclude him.
What about the polymarker results?
The polymarker results the control turned out okay, and those results are, hang on one second. Those results are not consistent with Mr. Simpson.
With regard to the other 2 parties in this case, were those results consistent or inconsistent with them?
They are consistent with Nicole Brown and inconsistent with Ronald Goldman.
Let me stop you just for a moment, or go back if I can. When you said there was no CDOT on this DQ alpha marker, what does that mean?
The CDOT is designed to say that you have enough amplified product to reliably interpret your results. If you have no CDOT, then what that means is that you may have so little amplified product that you could have a person, for example, that had 2 alleles, but you might only see one of them. So your typing the type that you see is one of the types that is there, but it may not be all of the types that are there.
Is that one of the built-in controls in the test that you described previously?
Yes, it is.
With regard to this result from the shoe print then, and I'm referring then to the polymarker results, was a particular individual included?
Yes,
Who was that?
Nicole Brown.
All right, Your Honor, with regard to the shoe print, I'd ask the court for permission to remove those covers.
Yes.
One second, Your Honor. Your Honor, objection, may we approach?
Nope. It's already been taken care of. Objection's overruled.
Turning your attention, Dr. Cotton, to item number 78, the Ronald Goldman boot drop. You have already described RFLP results over the last couple days, correct?
That's right.
How many probes were actually used in this test of that boot drop?
5.
And that's the RFLP probes?
Yes.
All right. Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'm going to ask to remove the cover as far as RFLP testing is concerned.
Yes.
Did you also conduct PCR testing with regard to number 78, the boot drop?
Yes, we did.
And did you test that at these 6 genetic markers, including DQ alpha?
Yes, we did.
With what results?
The results indicate that there are a mixture of 2 people in the sample.
As far as those results, can you include or exclude any of the 3 persons, Mr. Simpson, Nicole Brown, or Ronald Goldman?
Mr. Simpson is excluded, and Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman cannot be excluded.
All right, Your Honor, with this item, I'd ask for permission to remove the 2 magnetic covers.
Yes. Excuse me. Mr. Fairtlow, before you bring up something that's got a victim's body in it, would you warn me, please? I have, but
Now, as far as the polymarker results, well, let me go one step backwards. The DQ alpha results on the boot drop, they show what appear to be 3 types plus the possibility of a 4th.
That's right.
Is that what leads you to the conclusion that that is a mixture?
That's right.
Did the polymarker results also show a mixture?
The polymarker results don't have any locus that has 3 types in it, so it's not clear from the polymarker results alone that there's a mixture. And the differences in the intensities of the blue dots are not really quite good enough to indicate definitely that there is or is not. So the determination that there's a mixture relies on the DQ alpha results.
Now, as far as those DQ alpha results, there are 3 types listed, 1.1, 1.3, and 4. Did you obtain those types?
Yes, we did.
And then you also note, do you not, possible 1.2.
That's right.
Why is it a possible 1.2?
When you have more than one individual in the DQ alpha test, the way the strips are designed is that you wouldn't be able to definitively read the 1.2 if you have a certain combination of alleles and you have more than one person. If you only have a single person, there's no problem. So when there's clearly a mixture, which there is here, and you can't definitively say whether the 1.2 is there or not, then it's generally reported as you have the alleles that you can define, and you have a possible 1.2, and you can't say that it is or is not definitively there.
Now, turning your attention to what are listed as items number 84A and 84B, the left and right-hand fingernail clippings and scrapings of Nicole Brown. Did you type those items using PCR?
Yes, we did, but you'll have to give me a second to locate the report.
All right, if you would.
Object to foundation on this, on those fingernail scrapings that come, I don't think they were sent directly from.
Oh, excuse me, Your Honor.
Mr. Clark?
I believe that was a speaking objection.
It was.
Can we approach, Your Honor?
Yes,
Mind
with
the
court reporter,
foundation?
please.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, counsel. Mr. Clark, would you continue?
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Cotton, with regard to 84A, and let's start there, Nicole Brown's left nail clippings, left nail
Start again.
Try again, Your Honor.
Please.
With regard to number 84A, the left nail clippings and scrapings, did you test that particular item?
Yes, we did.
And did you subject that, or was it tested using PCR?
Yes, it was.
With what results?
We're now on 84A.
Yes.
Okay. The results from the PCR testing on 84A are consistent with Nicole Brown Simpson and exclude Ronald Goldman and Mr. Simpson.
All right, and that was at, again, 6 genetic markers?
That's right.
All right, Your Honor, with the court's permission as to that item, the left nail clippings and scrapings, I'm going to ask for permission to remove the cover.
Yes.
Turning your attention now to what's marked 84B, the right nail clippings and scrapings from Nicole Brown, did you also perform testing on that item?
Yes, we did.
With what results?
They are consistent with Nicole Brown, and they exclude Mr. Goldman and Mr. Simpson.
At the same 6 different markers?
That's right.
May I ask for the same permission, Your Honor?
Proceed.
Does that mean, Dr. Cotton, that you obtained the exact same results for 84A as you did for 84B, the clippings?
It does.
And then lastly, with regard to this item, 84B, referring your attention to the right scrapings, did you also test those using PCR?
Yes, we did.
With what results?
They are consistent with Nicole Brown, and Mr. Simpson and Mr. Goldman are excluded.
And were these the exact same results as in the earlier 2 nail clipping and scrapings results?
They are.
Your Honor, may I have the same
Proceed.
permission? All right, Your Honor, I'm going to ask that this board now be taken down.
All right. And how about 165 as well?
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Cotton, I believe it was day before yesterday that you described with regard to your controls. May I have just a moment, Your Honor? You described a couple of days ago that with regard to all the controls and all of the tests that you did, that they all worked properly with the exception of, and I think you said there were weak reactions as to one sample. Is that right?
That's right.
Could you describe that more for the jury, please?
Yes, if you'll just give me a minute.
Sure. I'm going to ask that one of the previous drawings, Exhibit 254, be placed up so that the witness can refer to it for a few questions.
All right. I think we'll need to move that to exchange places with the large easel. All right, Dr. Cotton, do you have those results?
No, I need a couple minutes.
Mr. Clark, would you have that sheet in your notes? All right, why don't you show that to Dr.
All
Cotton?
right.
Oh, yeah.
have that now, Dr. Cox?
I do.
All right, if you would you describe what you meant by those faint reactions that you described a couple days ago?
With regard to sample, the sample which was item 7, we had done this PCR reaction and gotten a faint product, so we attempted to concentrate the sample and try it again. After that concentration step, we picked up 2 faint dots in the polymarker reagent blank.
Now, we have placed or had placed out here a drawing that you did entitled PCR Controls, which is labeled Exhibit 254. I'm going to ask you if you would step down from the witness stand and use that drawing to describe what you've just testified to.
This is the listing of the various controls that one normally does when you do a PCR reaction. For the sample that I'm referring to, the positive control was fine. And then we talked about 2 kinds of negative controls. One is started at the very beginning of the test and carried through just as if it was a sample, and that's the reagent blank. The second is added at the time the reaction is set up, and that's the negative control. In this case, with regard to this sample, it is the reagent blank control that showed 2 faint dots. And this control was carried through and amplified at the same time. A number of samples were amplified, and on its first amplification, it was fine. It didn't show any faint dots. Only after the manipulations that it went through along with item number 7 that needed to be concentrated, so the reagent blank was concentrated as well. At that point, when it was re-amplified and reanalyzed, then it showed a faint B at the B7S8 location and a faint C at the GC location. It didn't show any other dots. It didn't give a complete type. It didn't have a C dot or an S dot, but those faint dots were noted when the analyst and a second analyst read the results, and they're recorded in the casework notes.
What's the significance of seeing those 2 dots?
Well, there's 2 ways you could interpret that. One possibility is that there was a very, very low amount of contamination in the reagent blank to begin with, so low that it couldn't be amplified. That is, there was a tiny amount of human DNA there, but not enough to be amplified, not enough to see anything. And then, in the process of concentrating that sample, you concentrated it just enough. That is, you reduced the volume, but you didn't reduce the amount of DNA, that now you're seeing these 2 faint dots, and they're barely detectable. The other scenario that would account for that is that the reagent blank was clean up until the point that the sample was concentrated, and the manipulation of putting it through the it's a little tiny thing, but putting it through this concentration step, somehow in doing that, we picked up a very small amount of contaminating DNA, and that's what we saw. And there's no way to know which of those 2 alternatives accounts for obtaining those 2 faint dots in the reagent blank, but those are the 2 possibilities.
How many samples were involved in this testing that had that faint reaction in the reagent blank?
Just 1.
And I believe you said that was number 7?
That's number 7. Now, let me clarify that. That reagent blank was started with a series of samples, and I don't remember exactly, without going back to the notes, which samples it was started with, but it was several. Most of the samples typed just fine, as did the reagent blank produce no type on the first amplification. So the reagent blank for those samples is okay. It only affects we only looked at it and tried to take it into account with respect to item number 7, because that was the item that was then concentrated and then typed. And actually then it was typed, the pre-concentration was typed also, and all those results were consistent.
Item number 7 was a Rockingham driveway stain.
I believe so.
Now, as far as these controls, and first of all, did you ultimately report a result for number 7, the Rockingham driveway stain?
We did report a result.
Why is that okay to do under these circumstances?
The sample was amplified twice, before it was concentrated and after it was concentrated. In both instances, it gave exactly the same results. And the reagent blank dots that I described, whatever they were, the faint B and the faint C, were so light that we felt this could not possibly have compromised the types that we saw in that sample, and therefore we went ahead and reported it.
Now, on 254, you have listed at the bottom reagent blank control. Is that what we're talking about?
That's what we're talking about.
Okay, is that different from what you have above, the negative control?
Yes, it is.
How are those two different?
They are started at different times.
And as far as this particular evidence was involved, did you get any reactions or sign of contamination from the negative control?
No, we didn't.
With regard to your testing, is there any other evidence of contamination whatsoever in any of your tests in this case?
No.
All right, if you could you have a seat back on the witness stand, Dr. Cotton? Thank you. Dr. Cotton, you also described the fact when you were going through one of the boards, and I believe it was yesterday, as far as some of the evidence items that you received some unstained or substrate controls as well?
That's right.
As far as this
Would you pull the microphone closer, please?
Oh,
As far as the Bundy crime scene, did you receive unstained controls for one of the Bundy walkway stains, number 49, as well as the shoe print 56?
yes, we did.
Did you test those for any DNA in them?
Yes, we did.
With what results?
No results. We didn't get any types, any dots.
As a DNA,
Nothing.
I'm sorry,
We got nothing.
as a DNA analyst, is that important in any way because it was a substrate control?
Well, it tells you that the immediate, I don't know, I don't have personal knowledge of where that substrate control was taken, but generally it would be taken close to the stain. So it tells you that the surrounding, or the area from which the substrate control, which was, if I can assume it was close to the stain, didn't have DNA in it, so that the DNA that you get from the sample is DNA from the stain.
Now, I'd like to shift your attention back to the fingernail scrapings and clippings that were number 84, that is from Nicole Brown.
Yes,
The items that you actually received for DNA typing came from whom?
they came from the Department of Justice.
Is that the California Department of
Yes.
Justice?
Excuse me, Dr. Cotton, would you allow Mr. Clark to finish asking the question before you start the answer?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
What form did they come to you in? And I'm talking about just the fingernail scrapings and clippings,
They were already extracted DNA.
meaning they came to you in what form? Can you just
They
describe that?
came in it was a very small volume of liquid in a very small tube.
Now I'd ask, Your Honor, that be marked as the People's next exhibit, which I believe is 260, what can be described as the Bronco Results Board.
260. And Mr. Clark, we're going to break at 10:30.
Very good.
Ms. Olson, are you going to be with me all morning? Okay, thank you.
Dr. Cotton, incidentally, with regard to what has been described as the Bronco automobile, did you test one item of evidence from that particular location?
Yes, we did.
And can you describe what that piece of evidence was?
Can you give me an item number?
Sure. If I can direct your attention to what's been described as item number 29, the Los Angeles Police Department item number, and described as the steering wheel.
Okay, you have to give me a minute now to find that report.
All right.
Which item is this on the board?
Item number 29.
All right, we're fine.
Having a little trouble going back and forth between our numbers and the item numbers.
No, take your time, we don't want to confuse these.
Okay.
Mr. Clark, do you have a date on this or anything that can assist Dr. Cotton? You found
I
it?
have it, yes.
All right, Mr. Clark.
right, Dr. Cotton, did you in fact test that item number 29?
Yes, we did,
And what did you test it by? What method?
using the DQ alpha and the polymarker test.
Were these the 6 genetic markers again?
Yes.
What results did you obtain?
We obtained results that indicated there was a mixture in that item.
And with regard to that mixture, let's start with the DQ alpha results. What were they?
A 1.1, a 1.2, and a 4.
Did you also test that particular item using these 5 polymarkers?
Yes, we did.
First of all, did the results of that test indicate the possibility of a mixture?
The results of the polymarker also indicate that there's a mixture.
All right, Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'm going to remove the first magnetic cover as to item 29.
Proceed.
Dr. Cotton, with regard to that series of results, or what's written that I've just revealed with the magnet, does that accurately describe the results you obtained?
Yes, it does.
As far as the 3 individuals, that is Mr. Simpson, Nicole Brown, and Ronald Goldman are concerned, can you make any conclusion about who was included or excluded from that result?
Mr. Simpson is included. Mr. Goldman is not included. And Nicole Brown could be included.
All right, so as far as individuals who are not excluded, that would be whom?
Ronald Goldman.
I'm sorry, not excluded?
Oh, sorry, that would be Mr. Simpson and Nicole Brown.
All right, Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'm going to reveal that marker. And in fact, Dr. Cotton, should there be an additional name up there from these three parties? Since there's one name at the moment.
Yes,
And who would that be?
Nicole Brown.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'm going to simply write in that name if that's acceptable. Or ask the witness to.
No, why don't you proceed?
Proceed with writing.
Yes.
For the record, I've written in the name Brown beneath Warren Poole Simpson on this particular exhibit.
Proceed.
Is this the only item you tested as far as you know from the Bronco automobile?
Yes,
Could I just a moment, Your Honor? Now, as far as this particular item, did you also receive an unstained control for item number 29?
yes, we did.
Did you test that using this PCR typing process?
Yes, we did.
With what result?
There were no results for that unstained control.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to move to another board, which I believe would be People's Exhibit 261.
All right. Before we do that, why don't we take our break?
That's fine.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a recess for the morning session. This might be slightly longer than our normal recesses. Please remember all my admonitions to you. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves. Don't form any opinions about the case. Don't discuss the matter with anybody else. Don't conduct any deliberations till the matter has been submitted to you. And we'll stand in recess. All right? Thank you. Mr. Cochran's put his newspaper away. All right. Just so the record's clear, counsel, Mr. Neufeld has asked for some additional time to review the report from Dr. Weir. Is that correct, Bruce Weir? All right, and our agreement is that if the prosecution concludes that they'll be allowed to reopen, and it'll be made clear to the jury that they're being allowed to reopen it. And the reason is that the defense needed some additional time to consider the report.
In fact, not only were they allowed to be reopened, but given the court's earlier ruling, they are compelled to reopen, actually, so they can express those frequencies.
Well, depends on which spin you want to put on it.
I've never felt compelled to reopen before.
All right?
2 items that I wanted to bring up to the court. One we've already mentioned. I'll deal with that second. The first is that it's our intent to bring out from this witness, Dr. Cotton, population frequency data that includes not only those markers tested in her laboratory, now this is PCR only that I'm referring to, DQ alpha and polymarker, but also to incorporate D1S80 results obtained by the Department of Justice. And the reason for that is to avoid having to bring witnesses back and forth in this somewhat combined nature of testing in this case. And I want to bring that up to the court before I laid a foundation for her knowledge of that marker and so forth.
DS-180,
D1S80.
D1S80.
And the idea is to avoid calling Dr. Cotton again as a witness following the Department of Justice's results. I think it's perfectly appropriate to do so. We know the evidence is going to show these results. So I don't think there's any problem of foundation. It's more order.
Mr. Neufeld, any comment?
Well, Your Honor, there's not even any results yet about D1S80 testing. There's been no foundation for the D1S80 test results yet, not even the normal foundation. There's no reason why they can't have Gary Sims, once he puts in his data, then looks at the cell mark numbers and compounds it or multiplies it with his own data. One moment. And if it's not going to be Gary Sims, it's going to be Renee Montgomery, who also they put on their witness list as someone who will be testifying from DOJ. I mean, there's really no reason to do it in this instance. And it seems like if you simply balance the interest here, to have them put in numbers on evidence that the jury hasn't even heard about yet is highly improper. And Robin Cotton doesn't have to come back. They can have those numbers combined by the witnesses who put in the other data.
Mildly unusual.
Well, I don't think it's that unusual. It's because of the order of proof of these witnesses. But I think Mr.
But we're talking about here tests that haven't even been presented to the jury, tests that the jury only vaguely expects since they see DOJ and they've seen the boards and they know that there'll be some testing from DOJ. But to include testing results that have not even been presented even in a basic form yet to the jury without even understanding what the test is, that's, and given the significance and breadth of the testing, I'm having a problem with that, Mr. Clark.
Well, if Mr. Neufield's going to stipulate to Mr. Sims' ability to make these calculations, then that may be a different matter, and we may agree to that. He's just said, which is totally contrary to what, for instance, his attack was, at least by way of objection, to Dr. Cotton's qualifications. Now, I think it's our right to be able to present this from the witness or witnesses we choose. Mr. Sims will provide, for instance, calculations that don't involve, that involve testing that doesn't involve the same item also tested by Cellmark. So I think it's our right to be able to present that through that witness, and I think under these circumstances, it's clear this evidence is coming in. The objection to the admissibility, for instance, of D1S80 results was waived, so we know this evidence is coming in. And I think just simply as a matter of the court's discretion, it can allow this witness to describe that. In other words, in terms of frequency data, because we know it's going to be admissible as a result of the defendant's waiver of his initial motion attacking this evidence.
Even with the initial motion, Your Honor, there's still the normal foundation requirements, and there's been absolutely no witness testifying to any of the testing methods, that they were the same generally accepted methods used in this particular case, that they were actually done, and what the results were. Robin Cotton would be testifying completely on the basis of hearsay as to the typing, as to the results, and as to the frequencies. That's three different major issues which the court's going to have to make a preliminary decision on, forgetting Fry, forgetting all those other issues. I just think it's just not fair at all. They'll be able to call their witness, whoever their witness is they want, who lays a proper foundation, has the credentials, and can testify to frequencies, and can then take the frequencies articulated by Robin Cotton and multiply them or add them or do whatever she intends to do with them to compound them. But not to do it this way.
I think this could be offered as a hypothetical. Talk about a good faith basis for some of the questions that have been asked. I mean, this couldn't be any clearer.
I'm going to sustain the objection. I think that this is so broad and the foundational basis that needs to be laid for yet another PCR test and for the appropriate procedures and all of that to allow in results before any of that is done. I think the court, in its discretion with regards to the order of proof, will sustain the objection.
All right, could I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Certainly.
Just with regard to this process, it will put us in the position of having to bring Dr. Cotton back another time. And I think based on all of this evidence and the fact that we have it available, it's certainly in good faith that we legally have the right to do so. And I think under these circumstances, the court should.
All right. Noted. Good night.
Very good. In that event, we're ready to proceed.
Thank you. Let's have the jury. seated. All right, Dr. Cotton, would you resume the witness stand, please? All right, the record should reflect that we've been rejoined by all the members of our jury panel. Mr. Clark, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Cotton, if we can, I'd like just to go back to the results from the Bronco, that is, the steering wheel stain, item number 29. You have described the fact that Mr. Simpson is not excluded or could have been a person who provided that blood stain. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
And let's just start with DQ alpha. How do you know that? What about those results let you know that?
Item 29 has the following alleles. For DQ alpha, it has a 1.1, a 1.2, and a 4.
If I could, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you if you would to point to the board as far as those markers that you just described for DQ alpha so that we can all see that.
Steal my pointers?
Mr. Simpson is shown at the very top of the board, and he has a 1.1 and a 1.2. The steering wheel, item 29 sample, has a 1.1 and a 1.2 and a 4. So two of the alleles or types that are found on the steering wheel are the same as Mr. Simpson's type. So he would be included based on the DQ alpha results as being a possible donor to the DNA taken from item 29.
Without getting into the individual types of the 5 polymarkers, was the same also true based on your typing results from that particular set of markers?
Yes, it was.
Now, what about Nicole Brown? You described the fact that she also could be a donor of that stain.
That's correct.
What do you base that conclusion on?
Nicole Brown has a 1.1 type. She has two 1.1 alleles. There is a 1.1 in the steering wheel, and therefore, based on the DQ alpha results, she would also be included as a possible donor to that mixture of people.
What statement, if any, can you make about that DQ alpha 4 that's also a result obtained from this steering wheel?
The DQ alpha 4 is shared with the allele 4 for Mr. Golden, but his allele 1.3 isn't visible in the DQ alpha type from the steering wheel. So that 4 comes from someone, but we can't make any determination as to who.
As far as the results, and let's take the results you obtained in this case, and let's take the steering wheel stain as an example. This is a mixture, correct, what you tested?
Yes.
As far as when portions of a mixture may have been left on that steering wheel, can you scientifically state that they occurred at the same time?
No, absolutely not.
All right. If I could then, Your Honor, I'm going to ask asked to be marked as People's Exhibit 261, a further results board,
All right.
which can be described, I believe, as the Rockingham residence. And I believe that's right behind the current board.
All right, 261. And we'll need to raise that up.
Now, Dr. Cotton, referring you to this third results board labeled Rockingham residence, and in particular to an item marked number 7, Rockingham driveway,
Yes.
I believe you even discussed this item a little bit earlier this morning. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you, in fact, use that particular evidence stain from the Rockingham driveway and type it using the PCR technique?
Yes, we did.
With what results?
The results that we got DQ alpha types, we got polymarker results. There was no C dot, again, on this DQ alpha type. So although we saw some dots and we recorded those, there was no C dot for the DQ alpha. The polymarker results had the appropriate control dot, and they were reported.
As far as these DQ alpha results on the Rockingham driveway stain number 7, did you say that you don't, well, let me rephrase that. You didn't see a C dot, is that right?
That's right.
And as part of your protocol, what effect does that have on your results?
Well, it's the same thing that I said earlier this morning. That means the types that you have are types that are in that sample, but you cannot be guaranteed that there are not types that you're not seeing. That is, there may be types in the sample that you are not seeing in your DQ alpha results.
Was there anything about the types that you did see that excluded, for instance, Mr. Simpson?
No, there were not.
All right. Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'm going to reveal the first magnetic cover.
Proceed.
And as far as these results, Dr. Cotton, can you make any statement about the 3 parties in this case, whether any of them can be included or excluded from these results?
Based on the polymarker results, the Mr. Simpson can be included, and Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman are excluded.
And again, Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'll remove that cover.
See.
Just for the record, should be noted,
Same
same
objection.
objection I made before, freestanding objection for similar situations.
Noted.
Thank
Thank you. Proceed.
Let's turn to what's marked number 12, the Rockingham foyer stain. Do you recall that?
I do?
And you testified yesterday, as well as this morning, about the fact that that stain was tested using the RFLP method,
That's right.
and there was a match obtained to Mr. Simpson. Is that right?
That's correct.
At how many probes?
5.
All right, Your Honor, I'm going to ask you to remove that label.
Proceed.
And then let's turn to the PCR results on that particular stain. Did you obtain some?
Yes, we did.
What were they?
The results that we obtained on item 12 indicate that Mr. Simpson is a possible donor, and Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman are excluded as possible donors.
All right, Your Honor, with the court's permission again, may I remove those labels?
You may.
Other than the fact that with regard to the Rockingham driveway stain number 7 and the fact that no CDOT was observed, are the types you actually detected the same in both number 7 and number 12, the Rockingham foyer stain, as far as the PCR results themselves?
Yes, the types that we saw are the same.
And they both include Mr. Simpson, but exclude both Ronald Goldman or Nicole Brown?
Yes.
As far as number 7 is concerned, the driveway stain, did you even attempt RFLP typing?
I don't know, we didn't.
Why not?
The stain was too degraded, the DNA was too degraded.
All right. As far as the particular items in this case, were you provided an unstained control from either of these stains?
For 12 and 7,
And did you test those? I'm sorry. Are you able to determine if you obtained controls for each of those items or one item or what?
probably so, but are they in the set of controls that we obtained at the very end?
I believe so, if that will help you locate the
It
document.
would. Yes.
And was that both 7 and 12 or just one or the other?
It was both 7 and 12.
And were these unstained substrate type controls that you were asked to test?
Yes, they were.
Did you obtain any DNA results from either one of those controls?
We did not obtain any results from either of those controls.
Now, taking you back to item number 7, the Rockingham driveway stain, I believe you said the DNA was too degraded to use RFLP typing?
Yes.
What does that mean?
It means that the DNA had been broken up in a random manner by whatever effects it was exposed to, and so the pieces were basically too small to give an RFLP result.
And therefore, you turn to PCR
PCR.
typing. All right. With respect to these substrate controls, again, what does that negative result mean to you as an analyst?
It means that from wherever the substrate control was taken, presumably in an area close to the stain, that there was no DNA in that area.
All right, Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to turn to one final results board. I believe that would be People's Exhibit 262. I believe it can be described as the results board for the SOX.
All right, 262, results board, SOX.
Dr. Cotton, referring you to this new board that's been marked or will be marked People's Exhibit 262 that refers to the Rockingham SOX, you have already described RFLP testing that was conducted on stain material provided to you. Is that correct?
Yes,
And you described that material or that blood staining as matching Nicole Brown. Is that right?
that's correct.
At how many probes?
At 5 probes.
Did you also, and Your Honor, may I remove the RFLP results?
You may.
Dr. Cotton, you described the fact that that 5-probe match was with Nicole Brown. Is that right?
That's right.
May I also remove that cover, Your Honor?
You may.
Now, turning your attention, Dr. Cotton, if I can, to PCR testing, was that also done on this DNA, this bloodstained material from that sock?
Yes, it was.
With what results?
The results from the PCR testing, which is DQ alpha and polymarker, include Nicole Brown as being a donor and exclude Mr. Goldman and Mr. Simpson.
All right, Your Honor, at this time, may I remove the final cover?
You may.
Does that mean then, Dr. Cotton, that not only RFLP typing matched Nicole Brown, but so did 6 additional genetic markers using PCR?
It certainly does.
Now, Dr. Cotton, I'd like to turn your attention to, and return for a few moments to population frequency data. You use frequency data again in your description of the meaning of results, is that right?
That's correct.
And the reason for that again is what?
For any set of genetic markers, a particular combination might be more common or less common depending on the alleles, because not some alleles are common and found in lots of people, and some alleles are not very common and not found in very many people. So it's a way to say this is a common type or a rare type that we've identified in a particular sample.
Now, you described a couple days ago about determining this estimate, this means of providing some description about how rare or common types are that may be shared, as being able to be used when more than one genetic marker is concerned. Is that right?
That's right.
How do you do that?
Essentially, you're saying, how often do I see the set of characteristics in the first genetic marker I look at? And then how often do I see the set of characteristics in the second genetic marker I've looked at? So the overall combination is that how often would I see the combination genetic characteristics from the first marker and the second marker would be the product of those two numbers. That is, you would multiply them together, and that would give you the overall estimation of how often you would see the group of characteristics from two markers. If you added an additional marker, then you would multiply that in as well, and so on.
Why is it appropriate or okay to do that, to provide this estimate?
As long as the markers are inherited independently and are statistically independent of each other in their inheritance, that is, they need to be on separate chromosomes, but also people would ask, are they statistically independent? As long as they're independent of one another, then the appropriate mathematical calculation is to multiply those individual frequencies of occurrence together to get the overall frequency of occurrence.
Now, with regard to this, and I believe you said different chromosomes, is that right?
That's right.
Do you, in fact, use, and let's look at RFLP typing first, do you use probes that are on different chromosomes or the same chromosomes?
Of the 5 probes that we used, they are all on different chromosomes with one exception. That is, 2 are on the same, although they are located at a considerable distance apart, which means that they also would be inherited independently. And the remainder are on 4 additional and different chromosomes.
That was going to be my next question. How can you use, for instance, these 2 probes or 2 genetic markers that you said were on the same chromosome?
It's the long explanation, which I won't try to give you, has to do with how DNA is distributed when eggs and sperm are created. That is, because they each have half. When 2 markers are relatively far apart on a chromosome, the chances of them being passed on to an offspring are equal. That is, it would be they wouldn't tend to be passed along together. And if I'm not doing this part very well. If 2 markers are close together on a chromosome, when that DNA goes into an egg or a sperm, they tend to go together. There is exchange of DNA between the chromosomes while eggs and sperm are being created, so that if 2 markers are far apart, they are not any more likely to go into the same egg or sperm as 2 markers that are on different chromosomes. That's the best I can do without giving a long biology lesson.
All right, with regard to these 2 markers that are on the same chromosome, have you done or have you established or shown to your satisfaction or other satisfaction that in fact they're not inherited together?
The work was not done at Cellmark. The work was originally done by Alec Jeffries, and he established that they are in fact sufficiently far apart to be considered to be inherited independently.
Now, you've described this multiplication process, that is, the frequency at one marker, the frequency at the next marker, and so forth. Is that any different than what has been used in these conventional serology cases about which we spoke for a number of years?
No, it would be the same calculation as used in conventional serology.
Now, as far as calculating frequencies, did you calculate frequencies in this case based on your laboratory's results?
Yes, we did.
And was that for the various samples that you have described over the last 2 days?
Yes.
First of all, do you keep databases in your laboratory?
Yes, we do.
What are those?
It's basically a sample of a population of people from which you will derive your estimation of how often you would see a particular genetic characteristic.
And what purpose do you use these databases for?
To ultimately assign a frequency to the genetic characteristics in a particular test, and then assign an overall frequency for some combination of characteristics.
As far as these RFLP results in this case, and I believe you've described samples that match, for instance, Mr. Simpson, is that right?
Yes?
As well as samples that match Nicole Brown.
Yes.
Do you compare those set of characteristics, or have you compared those set of characteristics to the number of individuals in your databases?
Yes, we have.
Did they match, did either one of them match anyone in your databases?
No, they do not.
Now, as far as your calculation, actually let me ask another question. As far as your calculation of frequencies in this case, are those simply estimations of how rare these matching characteristics are?
Yes.
What role, and I think you touched on this day before yesterday, what role do major racial groups have in this frequency calculation process?
For some genetic characteristics, they can be more common. Let me give a concrete example. Maybe it'll be a little bit easier. Let's just take DQ alpha, for example. And I'm making up these figures since I don't remember the real ones. Let's say the type 1.1, 1.1. It could be very common in Caucasians and very rare in Hispanics, or it could be very common in Caucasians and very rare in blacks, or the reverse. And so in order to give a appropriate range of how common or rare a set of characteristics is, it is usual to say this is the figure for how often you would see this in Caucasians, this is the figure for how often you would see this in African Americans, and this is the figure for how often you would see this in Hispanics. And if you had other racial databases at your disposal, you could go on and do that for other groups as well.
Why don't you simply calculate an estimate of the frequency based on one group as opposed to another?
Well, you could. It would sort of give you an overall kind of averaged figure, but it wouldn't give you the range of figures that using individual racial groups would, and therefore using individual racial groups is generally considered to be a more informative way of giving that number.
In the way you calculate these estimates, do you take any steps along the way? Well, do you have to make decisions about kind of which way to do something when you calculate these frequencies? Does that make any sense?
No.
Okay, let me try that again then. Do you take any steps along the way to ensure that you're not making something sound as far as a match rarer than it really is?
The particular steps that are taken, let me just first refer to RFLP, because this is really where that question becomes applicable. If you remember a couple days ago, I guess, I talked about, we sort of drew out a small database of 5 people and talked about looking at a window of sizes around a particular DNA fragment size. And it's that window that you are using to reflect the accuracy of your gel system and to not overestimate how rare a particular characteristic is.
As far as this calculation process itself, do you go through it whether it's an RFLP type test or a PCR type test that's used?
Yes.
Are there different, I think you said that there were a little bit different considerations in each of the two, is that right?
In the PCR test, when you have, say, a 1.1 allele, you don't have any particular window you need to put around that. That's clearly defined as a 1.1. It's not close to a 1.1. It doesn't have the same features of creating a DNA fragment size where you know that that fragment size is also an estimation. So you have a 1.1 and you don't need to build a window around that, so you can go directly to your database and use the frequencies in the database that you have available to you.
Now, as far as these various samples, do you calculate then this estimate, or did you calculate this estimate, based on different major racial groups?
Yes, we did.
Can you describe what those racial groups are?
We did the RFLP and the PCR estimates for African Americans, Caucasians, and Hispanics.
Why do you use those groups?
Those are the groups that we have data on at Cellmark. And in addition, the PCR data, some of that population data was compiled from other laboratories as well. The only other major racial group that one might use in the United States might be Oriental, which would include Japanese and Chinese and Korean and so on. We do not at Cellmark have a population database that's currently in use for that racial group, so we aren't providing any statistical estimates for that group.
As far as these racial groups, and you've described that you have reported, for instance, in this case, results from 3 major groups,
That's right.
what about the existence of other population groups around the world? There's more than 3, obviously, and you've named a 4th.
Is that a question?
I think that's a question, but I better make sure it's a question. You've just named a 4th group, for instance, that you don't report results for.
That's right.
And I believe you described the fact that that's because you don't have database material. Is that right?
That's right.
How do you know when you report frequencies from these 3 groups that you did perform that estimation process in this case, that somehow you're not overstating the rarity dramatically or significantly when other population groups may have, in fact, a more common set of these characteristics?
Besides the population data that's available in our laboratory, there is an enormous amount of population data that's been produced by forensic laboratories all over the United States and all over Europe and a few laboratories elsewhere, including Australia and Japan. The system that we use that I discussed for this testing is not, I can't take our population data at Cellmark and compare it to population data that's been produced by the Federal Bureau of Investigation or the California Department of Justice, because we used a different restriction enzyme. And if you'll just accept for the moment that that makes the DNA sizes a little bit different. However, the European community uses the same enzyme that we do. So there has been a lot of work, mostly spearheaded through the Federal Bureau of Investigation, to get all of the population data that's been obtained all together in one major volume. And when you look at all of this data together, what you see is that there are some differences in the populations, but they're not huge for RFLP loci, for those loci. This is not applicable. What I'm saying is not correct about the PCR loci. So I'm just talking about RFLP. So that you could go on and do more racial groups, but they would continue to produce numbers in the same range that you're getting with 3 or 4. So it would be a more refined estimate, but it wouldn't really provide you with a huge amount of information that you aren't already getting with 3.
Now, I believe you said it does not apply to the PCR groups. What do you mean?
The PCR locations that we've tested here do differ significantly from one racial group to the next. So if you did more than 3 groups, you might still see some differences. That is, you might get something that's more common than the 3 examples that we've provided, or less common.
Did you report estimated frequencies, in other words, estimates of how rare matching characteristics are in the 3 major racial groups you've described?
Yes, we did.
Now, as far as those estimates, can you or will you be able to tell us basically the range, that is, amongst those 3 groups as far as a set of characteristics on a sample, let's say, which is the most common group, that is the group with the most common estimate, versus the group with the least common or rarest estimate?
Yes.
Would that then, by doing so, represent the range of rarity of matching characteristics?
Yes.
Oh, well. Now, Your Honor, at this time I'd like to return to the Bundy Crime Scene Results Board, Exhibit 259.
Right.
Now I'm unmuted. Thank you, Donald. How does that was his objection. He just started going into how rare this DNA was compared to this DNA compared to this DNA. Who cares? This is a murder trial. Was his blood found here. Yes, okay. That's what we heard. Move on. That's all we needed to know. That was his objection. Come on. We're never going to get through this trial. Never. If they keep going down these wormholes. We could have had a baby. Look at them over there talking about something that has absolutely nothing to do with the murder. Nothing. And she's no help because she loves to talk about this. She can talk about this all day long, which is interesting. And I would love to hear her talk about it all day long. But not right now, because right now we're trying to do a murder trial. Trying. Hi, Neil from Scotland. I was 25 miles away from Scotland in 2018. I saw Scotland with my eyes. I was in Ireland and I saw Scotland. That's the closest I've ever been. Dude, you could have had these numbers already frickin' filled out and just point to them. We don't have to go through all this. We just don't. No, I'm not muted. Oh. Can you hear it now? It's quiet right now because she's not near a microphone, but can you
All
hear
right,
it?
Dr. Cotton, we'll move a little faster with the succeeding ones, but I want to ask you a couple of questions first. When you have provided this range of from 1 in 5,200 people to approximately 1 in 56,000 people, is that simply an estimate across these three racial groups of approximately how common or rare these DNA types are that are shared by this blood stain and Mr. Simpson?
Yes, you've stated it exactly right.
Turning your attention now to the Bundy walk stain, item number 48. First of all, were those results, as far as DQ alpha and polymarker is concerned, the same as item 47?
Yes, they were.
All right, and perhaps we can make this a little faster. Is that also true as to the other Bundy walk stains as far as PCR testing is concerned, items number 49, 50, and 52?
Yes.
All right, what I'm going to ask you to do then, Dr. Cotton, is as to those 4 items, 48, 49, 50, and 52, the Bundy walk stains, would you again place those frequencies in the appropriate boxes for your PCR testing at Cellmark?
Yes.
All right, could you go ahead and do so? And on 52, if you can wait just a moment, I believe there's 2 rows there, and I believe it would be the lower row for PCR. Your Honor, maybe we remove that marker?
Yes.
And if you could, in a somewhat smaller box, write that in. Thank you, Dr. Cotton. As to these PCR results, if any of these stains were also tested at an additional marker after using PCR, and that marker was independent of the 6 that you tested at Cellmark, if those characteristics matched Mr. Simpson, would the estimate be rarer?
Yes.
Why?
If you take these figures and you add in yet another genetic marker, you're going to be multiplying some frequency, which will be less than 1, and then taking the inverse, which is how you get the 1 in some number. And that will mean it will of necessity make these numbers more rare.
Turning your attention again to the Bundy stain, item number 52, did you also calculate an estimate of the frequency for the RFLP matching characteristics to Mr. Simpson at 5 different probes?
Yes, we did.
Did that also, or have you also reported an estimate across these 3 different racial or ethnic groups?
Yes, we have.
All right, could you again describe, first orally, in what group those characteristics were most common?
If you'll just give me a minute.
Sure. All right, go ahead.
The RFLP pattern from item 52, when that was used to calculate a frequency, the frequency that is calculated for African Americans and Caucasians is the same, and those estimations are that that set of characteristics would occur in approximately 1 in 170 million individuals. The frequency for Western Hispanics is more rare than that, and that frequency is that same set of RFLP characteristics would occur in approximately 1 in 1.2 billion.
1.2 billion?
Yes.
Now, as far as that estimate for African Americans and Caucasians, does that mean that these characteristics that Mr. Simpson has that are also found in the Bundy walk bloodstain are only found in approximately 1 out of 170 million Caucasians or African Americans?
Yes, approximately.
All right, if you would then, with that stain, and there's a little box just above the last PCR box you wrote in that will describe RFLP, could you write in that range, the high and the low? Dr. Cotton, the difference in the numbers between those estimates provided by PCR and the estimates that you've just provided as a result of the RFLP matches with Mr. Simpson seem to be quite a bit different mathematically. Is that right?
Yes, they're very different.
Why is that?
The RFLP markers have a much, much greater level of variation in the population than the PCR markers. If you had to make them sort of in order, the RFLP markers would be at way one end of the continuum, then you'd sort of move down a ways and you'd see DQ alpha, and then you'd move down yet further, and if you looked at the individual markers that are part of the polymarker system, they're not very informative individually. That's why you use them as a group of 5. So the RFLP is much more discriminating of a test in terms of separating human beings one from the other.
Now let's turn, if we can, to the shoe print, number 56. And that included results at both DQ alpha and the 5 polymarkers, correct?
Yes.
Now the DQ...
No, we didn't include the DQ alpha frequency.
That's just what I was going to ask next. As far as the DQ alpha result that's written in, those were the types you observed on the shoe print, 1.1, 1.1, correct? As far as actual types that were detected.
As far as the actual types observed, yes.
Now, because there was no C dot or control dot, do you use that result for DQ alpha in calculating an approximate or estimate of the frequencies of individuals who have those polymarker or DQ alpha characteristics?
No, we did not include it in the calculation of the frequency. We only used the information from the polymarker where we did get an appropriate control dot.
Is that to ensure that when you provide these estimates, you're only doing it for markers and tests that have worked properly?
Yes.
Now, did you calculate an approximate or an estimate of the frequency of the polymarker characteristics that are shared by the shoe print and Nicole Brown?
Yes, we did.
Could you describe those for us?
Yes, but you'll have to let me find it.
Fine.
Okay.
Could you describe them first?
The 3 numbers.
Yes, the most common through to the most rare.
Okay. For that set of types for the polymarker, the most common frequency was in Caucasians, and that number was 1 in 48. The middle frequency was that for Hispanics, and that number was 1 in 110. And the rarest frequency of that group was for African Americans, and that was 1 in 610. And these, again, whenever I say 1 in something, if I don't say approximately 1 in something, I should be. That's what I mean to be saying.
In other words, you're not offering, or your laboratory doesn't offer, that when an estimate is made of 1 out of 100, let's say, that if one examined 100 people, one would find one person with these characteristics, went to another group, and out of 100 would find these characteristics once and only once.
That's what the probability is telling you, but in reality, it might be slightly different than that. It might be you might find 2 in 100 or none in 100.
All right. Could you then, with respect to the shoe print, then write in those frequency ranges that you just described? Now, item 78, the boot drop, you described that as a mixture, correct?
Yes.
All right, let's turn now then to 84A, the left nail clippings and scrapings. And you described the fact that at the DQ alpha marker and polymarkers, that those characteristics were consistent with Nicole Brown.
Yes.
Did you calculate frequencies for that combination of markers?
Yes, we did.
Can you describe them in the way that you have previously?
Yes. You have to give me just a second.
All right.
Okay.
And these are estimates that you made based on your DQ alpha results and polymarker results.
That's right.
Could you then describe that for 84A?
They're going to be all the same figure for the various 84 things.
In other words, 84A, as well as the 2 samples from 84B, the right-hand nail clippings and scrapings, your laboratory obtained the same results for all 3.
That's right.
All right, could you then describe them?
The most common figure for that combination of types is approximately 1 in 2,500. The middle range frequency comes out to be the one for Hispanics, and that's approximately 1 in 7,300. And the most rare comes out to be the one for African Americans for this combination, and that's 1 in 26,000.
Could you then, in the 3 locations for item number 48, the fingernail clippings and scrapings, could you write in that range in the 3 locations under frequency?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Cotton. Now, why is there a difference in these estimates between that of the shoe print, number 56, which match Nicole Brown, and the estimates for the fingernail clippings and scrapings that also match Nicole Brown?
The difference is that for the fingernail clippings and scrapings, that information includes the DQ alpha frequencies. And for the shoe print, that does not.
If the shoe print control dot had appeared properly and the types had shown as they appeared to you even without the control dot, would the estimated frequency for the shoe print then be the same as that for the fingernail clippings and scrapings?
What about
In
the
any event,
invisible
DQ alpha,
footprints?
the fact that
Remember
there was no
those?
result on the shoe print is what makes these frequencies different.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I wonder how long when the defense gets up, how many weeks we're going to be talking about invisible footprints. Guys, I didn't watch it, but I feel it coming.
All right, Your Honor, at this time I'd like to turn to what's been marked People's Exhibit 261, the rock.
I'm going to leave my microphone on for just like a minute or two. Because before, when I had my microphone on, the court got echoey. And if you could just tell me if it sounds echoey, that would be fantastic. If you hear cats in the background, well, they all woke up, so they make noise.
Rockingham results. All right.
My mic is still on. This is what I want to know. But we have to wait till they start talking about nothing to do with murder. They're not going to talk because I left my frickin' microphone on. Yep. Yup. Well, I've been muted most of the day, especially when I'm trying to talk, Josh, so that might be why.
Dr. Cotton, if you would, and I'm referring you to what's the Rockingham driveway stain, item number 7.
Yes.
Did you calculate a frequency for those characteristics that are consistent with Mr. Simpson from that blood stain?
Yes, we did.
And was that for polymarker alone because of the absence of a C dot on the DQ alpha results?
That's right.
Okay, could you describe that for us, please?
I have to find it.
Nice. No echo. Okay. That's awesome. That's pretty awesome.
Okay.
And what are those estimates?
The estimates range from the most common being for African Americans, approximately 1 in 410. The middle range happens to be, in this case, for Hispanics, with 1 in 1,500, 1,500. And the most rare comes out to be for Caucasians, and that's approximately 1 in 3,400.
All right, would you, on the board that's been marked People's Exhibit 261, thank you, then write that range next to, or at the far end of that Rockingham stain number 7.
I think I was muted when I said it, but that could have
And then
been
as to
filled
the
out
last result on
already.
this board, referring you to
You
the
could have
stain from
already
the
had that
Rockingham
filled
failure,
out.
number
Just
12.
point at
you
it.
obtained both RFLP and PCR results, correct?
Yes, we did.
As far as this 5-probe match using the RFLP technique, did you calculate an estimate of the approximate rarity of those characteristics that match Mr. Simpson using RFLP typing?
Yes, we did.
Would that be the same or different from the earlier results from the Bundy crime scene, item number 52, at which Mr. Simpson matched that Bundy stain as well?
It's the same.
All right. Could you just then repeat it by writing it on the board again?
Good idea. Take your time. Go nice and slow. You know what I like about this new software? I can put anything I want in front, on top of the window that I'm recording right now. And you guys can't see it, which is awesome, because before I would put things up and they would flash over there and I have to pull them down. Now I have something covering it right now. You can't see it. Oh, you can see when I move my mouse over it, though.
Now, Dr. Cotton, you have written in as to the estimations of how rare these matching characteristics are between the bloodstain from the Rockingham foyer that matches Mr. Simpson as between
Donald.
approximately 1 in 170 million and 1 in 1.
Donald, I promise you, we call you other things.
0.2 billion, is that right?
That's right.
And is that the same result again in terms of these estimates as the bloodstain number 52 at Bundy?
Yes, it is.
Now, did you also perform PCR typing on this same Rockingham Foyer stain and estimated how rare those characteristics are that are shared with Mr. Simpson?
For the PCR types?
Yes.
Yes, we did.
In this instance, unlike number 7, did you also have a DQ alpha result?
Yes, we did.
All right, could you describe for us the relative rarity of these characteristics that are consistent with Mr. Simpson using PCR typing?
Yes. Those results come out to be the most common frequency for that group of types is in African Americans, and that figure is approximately 1 in 5,200. The mid-range frequency comes out to be the one for Hispanics, and that's approximately 1 in 32,000. And the most rare frequency for that group of types comes out to be the one for Caucasians, and that's 1 in 56,000.
Now, are these estimates the same as with the Bundy crime scene estimate stains that were consistent with Mr. Simpson using PCR?
Yes, they are.
All right, could you then go ahead and write those numbers under the PCR portion of item number 12, the Rockingham Foyer stain? Now, lastly, Dr. Cotton, what I'm going to ask is that the last result board be used, which is People's Exhibit 262. And I'm going to refer you to the one result, or one evidence item rather, that you've described earlier, the socks. Do you have in the material before you your approximations of how common or how rare the matching characteristics are shared by the sock and Nicole Brown?
Yes, I do.
With respect to your RFLP typing and the 5-probe match, can you describe for the jury, please, approximately how rare those characteristics are shared by the sock and Nicole Brown?
For the RFLP results, the range of numbers goes from the most, the most common being the approximation for Western Hispanics, and that is 1 in 6.8 billion. The mid-range figure is for Caucasians, and that number is approximately 1 in 9.7 billion. And the figure that would be most rare is for African Americans, and that number is 1 in 530 billion.
All right, Dr. Cotton, could you on the board, and referring to again the exhibit, People's Exhibit 262, write in that range for the 5-probe match between Nicole Brown and the sock? Next to what's been labeled RFLP under the frequency column. All right, Dr. Cotton, you have written in under frequencies 1 in 6.8 billion to 1 in 530 billion. Is that right?
Yes.
How many people are on Earth?
Well, I don't personally know, but the figure I've been quoted is about 5 billion, I think.
What do these results mean then?
Sustained.
Did you also calculate a frequency just based on your PCR typing of the sock as well?
Yes, we did.
And could you describe that for us?
Yes, just 1 second. Based on the PCR types alone, the figures come out as follows. The most common is for Caucasians, and that figure is 1 in approximately 2,500. Mid-range frequency is for Hispanics, and that number is 1 in approximately 7,300. And the most rare type comes out to be the one for African Americans, and that's approximately 1 in 26,000.
Are these the same estimates on the earlier samples using PCR that were consistent with Nicole Brown, such as the fingernails?
Yes.
All right, and lastly, could you just write those numbers under PCR for the sock? And again, these were 6 different genetic markers using PCR. than the 5 markers used to type this sample using the RFLP process?
Yes.
All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our recess for the morning session. Please remember all my admonitions to you. Do not discuss this case amongst yourselves. Don't form any opinions about the case. Don't conduct any deliberations till the matter has been submitted to you. Do not allow anybody to communicate with you with regard to the case. We'll stand in recess until 1 o'clock. All right, Dr. Cotton. Good afternoon again, Dr. Cotton.
Good afternoon.
You're reminded you were still under oath, and Mr. Clark, you may conclude your direct examination.
I shall. Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Cotton, following the end, or when you concluded testing on different pieces of evidence, would they be returned to the original agency that sent them to you?
Yes.
And as far as evidence in this case was concerned, did the bulk of it, was the bulk of it returned to the Los Angeles Police Department?
Yes.
Did you release a couple of pieces, at least 2 pieces of evidence to another laboratory?
Yes, we did.
All right, in particular, can you tell us with regard to the Bundy bloodstain, item number 52, can you tell us when it was released?
It was released on October 13th, 1994,
To the custody of any particular individual?
to the custody of Michael Stevens.
Do you know who Michael Stevens is?
He, in parentheses, it has LADA. I assume that stands for Los Angeles District Attorney's Office.
All right, with regard to this Bundy stain, item 52, can you describe for us, please, exactly what was released to his custody?
Yes, but you'll have to wait 1 second.
All right.
It would have been the 10% cuttings from the 2 bloodstains that comprise that item.
So this would have been, as far as this particular evidence, item 52, the Bundy bloodstain was concerned, would have been 2 of those little cuttings, the smaller or 10% or approximate 10% portions,
Yes,
and that would have been 2 separate cuttings, but from the same evidence swatches.
that's right.
Were those the cuttings made by Dr. Blake?
Yes, they were.
On that date, did you also release to Mr. Stevens anything with regard to number 78, the boot stain?
Yes, we did.
What was that?
Hang on just 1 minute. That would have been the 10% cutting from that also.
Again, also, that would be a single 10% cutting?
Yes,
And was that also the cutting done by Dr. Blake?
yes.
As far as the Department of Justice was concerned, did you at some time provide them with any photographs of your product gels?
Yes, we did.
Did you also provide them photographs of your yield gels?
Yes, we did. That's sort of the same thing.
In what way?
Product gel is synonymous with yield gel. We provided them a picture of that gel, but it's the same. You've used 2 terms to describe the same thing.
Okay. Are these gels that you look at to see if the DNA has amplified?
Oh, okay. Never mind. I'm sorry. Product gel being the gel, we haven't actually talked about that, but you can run a small gel to see if your DNA is amplified, and yes, product gel in that sense is different from yield gel, and we did provide that, both of them.
Both types to the Department of
Yes.
Justice? Now, Dr. Cotton, to your knowledge, have all the records, raw data, or copies of the raw data, and photographs in this case from your laboratory been provided to the defense?
Yes,
Do you know of any case in your laboratory where the volume of materials provided to the defense has been more extensive than this case?
Sustained.
Did you provide the defense your population databases?
yes, we did.
Did you provide them your written protocols and manuals?
Yes, we did.
Dr. Cotton, as a result of the testing and the results you've described at your laboratory, are there any questions in your mind about the accuracy of the results reported by your laboratory in this case?
No, there are not.
All right, thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Neufeld, do you need a moment?
I need some time just
All
to
right.
set up and
All right.
move things around.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, when we switch from direct examination to cross-examination, I normally take a break to allow the lawyers to shift their exhibits and things and get organized. So we'll take probably about 10 or 15 minutes. Let me ask you to step back into the jury room.
Dr. Cotton, on direct examination, you were asked repeatedly during the direct examination whether or not degradation, okay, the process of degradation could change one person's DNA into another. And I believe that each time you answered that question, you said no. Is that right?
That's right.
And by the way, have you been following this trial at all?
I've watched part of the opening arguments and then bits and pieces of testimony and maybe 30 minutes here and there as the trial's gone along.
Okay. Have you at all, at any time during these proceedings that you've followed, Dr. Cotton, ever heard either Mr. Blazer, Mr. Scheck, or myself suggest to any witnesses at all that through the process of degradation, a person's blood could change from one person to another?
Sustained.
Well, let me ask you a hypothetical, Dr. Cotton. I'd like you to assume for a moment that the blood drops that were recovered from Bundy did not come from Mr. Simpson, but instead come from some other person. And I'd also like you to assume for the purpose of this hypothetical that the blood drops recovered at Rockingham are indeed Mr. Simpson's blood. All right?
Okay.
Thank you. Now, I'd also like you to assume, for the purpose of this hypothetical, that due to the manner in which the Bundy blood drops were collected, packaged, and processed, that they became degraded. Okay?
Okay.
And in fact, you've described, I think, in detail during direct examination how blood stains or blood drops can become degraded. Isn't that right?
Yes.
For instance, in this case, you mentioned that the...
Excuse me, counsel. We're going to have to move this easel because it's blocking two of the jurors' view
Oh,
of Dr.
okay.
Cotton. All right. Thank you, counsel. Proceed.
For instance, you mentioned during direct examination that item 56, I'm asking that item 56, which is exhibit number 256, go up on the Elmo. And I believe, if you would, if you could stand and just use the pointer to point out to the jury where lane 56 is again.
Down here, you mean?
Well,
Yeah.
actually, come over. Come over to 56. No, back up one. Blank ones. There. Okay. Is that the lane of reflecting a DNA test on item 56?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And as you can see, and I believe as you testified, that lane is clear, right?
That's right.
And that's an indication that the DNA from that sample degraded considerably. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And in fact, and when you first looked at item 56 in the laboratory, before you even looked at it on the level of DNA, you just saw these swatches, you couldn't tell just from looking at it that the DNA was degraded. Isn't that right?
Of course.
And to the naked eye, in fact, it didn't look any different than item 52, for instance, did it?
That's right.
Now, I'll get to it in a second. Now, what I'd like you to assume, ma'am, doctor, excuse me,
Either way is fine.
Okay. What I'd like you to assume, Dr. Cotton, is that those drops from Bundy, which were not left by Mr. Simpson, but became degraded in the packaging or handling process, such that all the DNA that was in that sample and on those swatches was completely lost to degradation. Okay?
Okay.
Now what I'd like you to assume is that when those swatches from the Bundy drops get back to the Los Angeles Police Department laboratory, they are brought into contact with the swatches from Rockingham, which I've already asked you to assume came from Mr. Simpson. Okay?
Okay.
And that the Rockingham drops, or at least some of them, such as item number 12, were not very degraded. Okay?
That's right.
And I believe you even said on direct examination that item 12 seemed to be in good shape, relatively speaking.
It does.
And so there was a lot more DNA on item 12 than there was, for instance, on item 52. Is that right?
That's right.
In fact, there was a lot more DNA on item 12, which comes from Mr. Simpson's foyer, than there was on any of the drops from Rockingham. Isn't that right?
That's right.
And what I'd like you to assume for the purpose of this hypothetical, Dr. Cotton, is that these blood drop stains from Bundy, when they're brought back to the Los Angeles Police Department laboratory, came into contact with Rockingham drops, which had more DNA in it, and that those swatches from Rockingham cross-contaminated, by accident, the swatches from Bundy. Okay?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Objection?
Let me see counsel at sidebar, please.
Not a sidebar now. I'm trying to fix this. I'm working here. Can't you guys just do a murder trial? Can you not just do a murder trial, please? It's not that hard. You could have, looked at a murder trial or two before you started this one so you knew how they were supposed to go. We all know. We see it every day.
Dr. Cotton, now, just again, because we had a little bit of a break, assuming again that the drops at Bundy were not deposited by Mr. Simpson but were deposited by someone else, and assume that in the process of collection, processing, and handling and packaging of those drops, that the stains became so degraded as to lose their DNA content, to some extent, as it would look like here on item 56. I believe that also happened in your laboratory with respect to item 42, didn't it? That was from the pool of blood near Mrs. Nicole Brown Simpson's body. Did you see that same phenomena?
No foundation.
Overruled. Do you recall that?
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
Don't you recall that you didn't even see a control dot on item 42?
Sustained.
Well, put aside item 42 then, okay? I just would like you to make this assumption that that degree of degradation occurred, so that the items actually lost their DNA content.
Right, I understand.
Okay, now even when that happens,
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Objection. No foundation. Actually misstates the evidence.
Rephrase the question.
I'm asking you to assume, for the purpose of this hypothetical, that the items, the swatches taken from the Bundy blood drops became so degraded as to lose all recognizable DNA. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you. And I'm asking you to assume that at a later point in time at the Los Angeles Police Department laboratory, they came into contact inadvertently with swatches from Rockingham that had Mr. Simpson's blood on it and that had more DNA in them. Okay?
Yes.
I'm asking you to assume that they also came into contact with Mr. Simpson's reference sample, meaning the vial of fresh blood. All right? Just assume those three premises.
Excuse me, Your Honor. Objection. Assumes facts not in evidence.
Yep.
No foundation.
Your Honor, the subject...
Sustained. As to that additional item, that's more than we discussed at sidebar. Sustained.
Oh, fine. Limit the hypothetical then to the Bundy swatches coming into contact with the Rockingham swatches. All right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, given those assumptions, is it possible, scientifically, that when they come into contact with Rockingham swatches, that there can be cross-contamination from Rockingham swatches to the Bundy swatches? Is that scientifically possible?
Are you asking me if it's scientifically possible or does the state of the DNA in this case support that?
I'm asking you whether it's scientifically possible, Dr. Cotton.
Certainly, I suppose it would be scientifically possible for a very small amount of material to be transferred from one swatch to another.
Okay. Now, Dr. Cotton, furthermore, we're talking about, let me back up again. And if some of the material from the Rockingham swatches that,
Forgive me. Is the auto rads that are on top of the monitor here, are those evidence?
yes,
Okay, just don't want you to melt them there.
All right.
Proceed.
if some of the blood from the Rockingham swatches that represent Mr. Simpson's blood came in contact with the swatches from Bundy, which were degraded, so degraded as not to have any more DNA recognizable, given my hypothetical, excuse me. Under those facts and circumstances, Dr. Cotton, is it possible that the contaminated sample, contaminated by Mr. Simpson's blood, is what you would see if you did a DNA test?
Objection. Assumes facts not in evidence, misstates the evidence.
Overruled.
You'd have to ask me what kind of DNA test before I could answer you.
Okay, well, in the first instance, let me ask you about item 52. Item 52 was a blood drop from Bundy, is that right?
Yes.
And I think you said that, based on your own experience in the laboratory, item 52 appears to have very little DNA in the lane, isn't that right?
Yes.
And in fact, you mentioned that there is a method that Cellmark has at its disposal to estimate the amount of human DNA in a sample, isn't that right?
Yes.
And what is that called, Dr. Cotton?
It's referred to as a slot blot, which is just a way to use a probe that's human-specific on a small part of the sample and see how much signal you get and compare that to a whole series of controls of known amounts, and you can make an estimation from that as about how much human DNA that you have. And it has some limitations, but it's very useful.
All right. And did you, in fact, do a slot blot, in this case, on item 52?
Yes, I believe we did.
And did that slot blot produce a result giving you an estimate as to approximately how much DNA was present in the entire sample?
I'd have to go into the records to tell you.
Please do.
Okay. For this, I'm going to get out the original records since those will be better for me to be looking
Okay.
at.
While you're looking, Dr. Cotton, I'm just going to, with the court's permission, replace the exhibit that's on the Elmo with item 257B, which reflects item 52.
People's 257B.
Peoples.
Item 52.
People's 257B,
Item 52.
which reflects item 52. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Dr. Cotton, do you have the slot blot?
I have it.
You have looked at it?
I've looked at it, and if you can ask the question again, so.
Okay. Based on your review of the slot blot, is there an estimate as to how much DNA was present, at least in the sample that you did the slot blot on?
From the slot blot, the amount of DNA appears to be about 25 nanograms altogether. However, the slot blot is a separate extraction from the DNA that was extracted that goes on the autorad. There is no slot blot for the DNA that was loaded on the agarose gel, which is what you're seeing on the autorad. The only estimation of that amount of DNA would come from the yield gel or looking at the film itself and making an estimation.
Well, okay, let's just back up a second. The yield gel simply tells you how much DNA is present. It doesn't tell you whether or not it's bacterial DNA or human DNA. Isn't that right?
That's absolutely right.
Right. And you're saying that this slot blot does not represent 10% of the entire sample you received minus that 10% cut that's saved?
That's what I'm telling you.
Right. What percentage of the entire sample is represented in the slot blot, approximately,
About 10%.
of the entire sample?
Well, let me lay it out and so
Please.
that we won't get confused. 10% of the sample was, and this is an approximation because you're cutting from, an irregularly shaped thing. 10% of the sample was used for the PCR test. The slot blot was done for that 10%. A DNA extraction was done from that 10% of that DNA for the PCR, and of that DNA extraction, 10% of it would have been loaded on the slot blot, so that all we can really say in response to your question is, of the DNA that was extracted for PCR, approximately 25 nanograms would have been available. That is maybe approximately 10% of the entire sample.
Right. Would you agree that the banding pattern, I'm sorry, withdrawing. You said a moment ago that one way to estimate how much DNA is present in the sample is to look at the autorods themselves. Is that correct?
Yes.
And would you agree that there is significantly less DNA present in lane 52 than in any of the reference samples, for instance?
Yes.
And there's significantly less DNA present in 52 than there is in item 12.
Yes.
And what is your target when you are loading lanes to do RFLP typing?
We don't have a specific target, but generally we will not want to go below 25 nanograms.
Well, does your protocol in fact say that you should have at least 50 nanograms?
No, I don't believe it does.
Well, does your protocol say, with respect to the question of how much DNA one can get a result from, say that 50 nanograms of DNA may give an RFLP banding pattern? Does it say that?
I don't have that huge protocol memorized. If that is a copy of it and you're reading from it, then I will agree with you.
No,
But,
I can just show it to you.
okay, that'd be good. Yes, it says 50 nanograms may give an RFLP result.
But what you're saying is that based on your experience, that sometimes you can even get an RFLP result from as little as 25 nanograms?
Yes, actually, you could probably even go slightly lower than that, but it depends on the quality of the DNA.
Okay, and would you agree that, as evidenced by the banding patterns here, you are close to that minimal amount that you're talking about?
For item 52, yes, we're very close.
Okay, which would mean that somewhere in that 25 nanogram range, more or less.
Yes, that would be my estimation.
Okay. And would you agree that, a microliter of blood has as little as 20 to 40 nanograms of DNA in it, if it's in good shape?
To tell you the truth, I don't actually know what the correct figure for that would be.
Let me just show you something just to see if it refreshes your recollection.
What page, Counsel?
Page 28.
Your Honor, the projection is to foundation at this point.
Sustain. Ask the question. Go ahead and stay there. Ask the question.
Well,
Dr. Carden, are you familiar with the NRC report?
Your Honor, I would do a whole series of questions if you'd like, and I'll do that now. Sorry. Dr. Carden, what is the National Academy of Science?
It's an organization of scientists who have done very important work in their respective fields and been elected to become members of the National Academy of Science.
It would be fair to say that it basically includes the most distinguished members of the scientific community in this country.
Well, I don't know that it includes all of the most distinguished, but it includes a good many of them.
And in 1990, did the National Academy of Science commission a study on the reliability of forensic DNA profiling?
Yes, they did.
And did that study, to do that study, did the National Academy of Science appoint a committee to do the investigation?
Yes, I don't,
Objection is to relevance at this point.
A few more questions, Counsel. I'll overrule it subject to later motion, but let's get to the chase here.
And would you agree that some of the more esteemed members of the forensic science community and genetics community participated in this committee that eventually drafted a book?
I will agree with you that some of the members were very knowledgeable, but you may have overstated their standing somewhat.
Okay. In fact, you personally testified before this committee, did you not, before this report was prepared?
Testimony wouldn't be my choice of words. I didn't take any kind of oath or anything. I just gave a short talk.
And the participants asked you questions as well?
Yes, they did.
Okay. And to the best of your knowledge, this report was funded by, in part, the Federal Bureau of Investigation?
Hearsay and relevance at this point.
Overruled.
I believe that was where some of the funding came from, and some came from other sources.
Such as the National Institute of Health and other
Yes.
government agencies?
Yes.
And eventually, in April of 1992, the National Academy of Science Press published their final report. Isn't that right?
That's right.
And no doubt you have carefully, I think you even said on direct examination, that you have read this report many times.
I have.
And whether or not you agree with all of its findings, Dr. Cotton, would it be fair to say that you have considered all that is written in this book before reaching your own opinions?
Objection vague.
Sustained. Rephrase the question.
All right.
Let's narrow it down.
Fine. Have you considered the conclusions and observations in this book as part of the process of reaching your own opinions about the reliability of forensic DNA profiling?
Same objection.
Sustained.
Well, the book has a number of chapters, does it not, Dr. Cotton?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And have you considered the chapter entitled DNA Typing Technical Considerations as part of the process in reaching your own opinions and conclusions about forensic DNA profiling?
Same objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Do you mean have I thought about what they said?
Yes.
Certainly, I thought about it.
And now I'm going to ask you exactly the same question with respect to Chapter 3, which is DNA Typing, Statistical Basis for Interpretation. Have you thought about what they said as well?
Yes.
And have you thought about what they said in Chapter 4, entitled Ensuring High Standards?
Yes.
Okay, now, in that Chapter 2, I'd like you, which you said you did think about and consider in reaching your opinions and conclusions, I'd like,
Objection misstates the evidence.
Sustained. It does. Rephrase the question.
with respect to Chapter 2, that you have acknowledged thinking about and considering, I'd like to ask you about a particular table, Table 1.1.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Same objection.
Sustained. Rephrase the question.
Is this still a foundation?
Yes. There has to be a factor of reliance here, Counsel.
Dr. Cotton? And you said a moment ago that you thought about the contents of each of those specific chapters which I referred to. And did you consider the contents of those particular chapters which I just referred to in formulating or coming to your own conclusions and opinions, whether or not you accept or reject the contents of those chapters?
Same objection, also vague.
Sustained.
Dr. Cotton, did you consider the contents of Chapter 2 in formulating your own opinions? One second. In formulating your own opinions regarding the technical considerations for DNA typing?
Same objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
I read that chapter. I thought about what it had to say. I don't agree with all the things that are in the chapter, but I certainly thought about them as I read them.
And when you thought about them as you read them, even if you didn't agree with, by the way, are there some things in the chapter which you do agree with?
that would be applied to the whole book. There are things that I agree with, and there are things that I don't agree with.
But in helping you to reach your conclusions and your current opinions, did you at least consider the positions taken in those 3 chapters that we just described?
Sustained.
I don't think that.
Sustained.
Oh.
All right, we'll go through it chapter by chapter again, Your Honor. Have you considered,
Counsel, I indicated to you as clearly as I could, the issue is reliance in forming an opinion. The fact that you read something doesn't necessarily mean that you can be cross-examined on it.
I
Has to be the
understand.
has to be the basis of an opinion. Proceed.
forming your opinion that you've given to this jury in this case, did you consider the substance of what appears in Chapter 2, DNA typing technical considerations?
Same objection.
Or you can answer that yes or no.
No.
Didn't consider it at all?
If you're asking me, did I consider that chapter informing my opinions that I presented regarding this evidence, I have to say I did not.
Well, when I say that, let me clarify that. Did you consider this chapter in formulating your opinions on the technical considerations of DNA typing in general, which of course is one of the things that you, well, let me back up. Are the technical considerations of DNA typing one factor that you consider when you assess evidence in a case?
Overruled.
Of course.
And on a foundation or threshold level, Dr. Cotton, in coming to your own conclusions and understanding about the various technical considerations involved in forensic DNA profiling, did you consider what the National Academy of Science report said in this book, DNA Technology and Forensic Science?
Same objection, Your Honor. And asked and answered.
Overruled. Yes or no?
No.
One moment. Please have a side where I might save some time.
With court report, please.
Thank you.
Oh my God, I'm working. I'm trying to work here. Oh, sanctions. I hope they put him in jail.
Well, Dr. Cotton, just with respect to, I sort of forgot where I was, but,
I thought we were trying to establish the minimum thresholds for RFLP testing.
okay. let me just ask you whether or not looking at a particular chart would refresh your recollection as to how many nanograms of DNA is in a milliliter of blood. May I approach the witness, just for the purpose of refreshing her recollection?
Do you recall having seen a chart like that in the?
Yes, I do.
All right, would you go ahead, Joseph?
Thank you.
It was on page 28?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the page.
28.
The,
All right, the only issue is, does that refresh your recollection as to these items after?
yes.
All right, Ms. Neufeld.
Can I get out my copy so I can keep looking at it?
Go right ahead.
What page is the chart on again?
28.
28.
I'm ready.
So your own copy of the book entitled DNA Technology and Forensic Science?
Yeah, it looks just like yours.
Okay. And would it be fair to say, I think you said, in fact, that there are certain portions of this book that you agree with, and there are certain portions of the book you disagree with?
That's right.
And as to the portions of the book that you agree with, would it be fair to say that you have considered and relied on those portions, at least, in helping to develop your own opinions on forensic DNA profiling?
The portions I agree with, yes.
And now, so if I bring up a certain portion, I'm going to ask you at a certain point whether it's something you agree with or disagree with, so we can eliminate it immediately, all right, Dr. Cotton?
That'd be fine.
Good. All right. According to, by the way, do you agree with the numbers reflected in Table 1-1?
They seem to fit with